So what we're doing here today is working on the defining project, scope, time, cost. I'll get back to that and get a little bit into the project plan. Um, but to start off, the project term is something which is used to define a lot of things. It could be you're quitting smoking on the small but difficult part. It could be building the highway or whatever. It's a very broad term that's being used. So therefore, I need to tap in a little bit on some of the characteristics, how we define it a little bit more narrowly so we know what we're talking about. Uh, it's a set of activities with a start and end dates. That's the first thing we need to think of. So it's something that is being done and started and ending at some point. Then it's also using restricted resources. So we don't have all the money and all the time in the world because, well, then it's just a development. It's not a project. Probably the most important is that it has a single or a defined set of goals. So we want to achieve something that we more or less know what is. And then all the events, actions, activities that we do develop a single or new output. So all the things that we do, we can follow up on. Usually a budget, usually a project management, but that's not always the case. Project management then is the tracking of the process in terms of outcome, time, and costs. So as I just mentioned, the project is the activities, the processes, and the project management is tracking these elements. And then it is dealing with people. And this is where things become tricky because the leadership and the project management are actually rather closely connected. People will have opinions, they bring attitudes, etc., into the project. Therefore, you need to deal with people. I took this definition from what's called the PIM book. There are a couple of internationally recognized project management certifications. This one is from what's called the Project Management Professional PMP certification, where it says a project is a series of unique conjoint activities, as I just mentioned, which has a goal or a purpose, also single or set, which should be ended in a formally decided range of time, budget, in relation to specifications. So time and budget is what we're giving, and we have to output specific according to the specifications using the time. That leads to this one here. And I have to say, if you remember one thing from project management classes, it's this. Because there's always a budget, there's always some time, there's always a scope. And if you push any of those, if you adjust the scope, for example, you need to do a little bit more, well, you will push time or budget. If you change the budget, if you say, hey, you get less money to do this, well, either you will have to change the time or the scope, like what you do, or both things. So the key message here is that any of those three elements that you push on, you will affect the others. Always. So you need to keep this in mind. And now when I'm saying it here, it sounds, yeah, simple, easy enough. But if you worked with just a couple of projects, you will know that, for example, the scope part. What is it that we're supposed to do in this project? can you just add this small feature to it? And you say, it's not that much. I'll do that. But that change of scope will change the budget or the time. For example, Kieran is asked, uh, we, uh, we, we came up with this small additional definition page. It's just one more page to the translation that you're doing. And Kieran says, it's easy enough. I've already translated 100 pages, one more page, no problem. But it does affect the budget and it does affect the time. Or Jayane, they say, by the way, could we also just do the XXXXL large version of it, the t-shirt? Yeah, we can, but it will affect the others. Or, hey, can you deliver this a little sooner? Yeah, but then I have to pay overtime to the employees, so that changes the budget. So always remember they are linked together. So as I mentioned, project management has these different elements of process or activities. Each of them has some characteristics. So the process, each element which together becomes a project, is a definable, clearly identified input and output. So what is coming in and what is coming out? It's in an order. So something is happening before, something is happening after. There's a customer. It might be a different process. So you write a set of a school project, and that the conclusion of that you're going to use in the next part of the project. That's the customer. There should be some value adding. You should get closer to the goal. Otherwise, you shouldn't do it. It's embedded, which means that there's someone doing it. There is a relation to an organization or a setup. Often you will see some cross-functionality in it because people are needing to draw on, say, finance resources, technical resources, which is why that it cannot stay in the base organization, and for the most part, a process owner.